Yeah. So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's session where we are going to be discussing dashboards. We have talked about reports in a previous session. Today, we are going to be looking at what a dashboard is and why we need to have dashboards. So, the first thing is, what is a Power BI dashboard? Well, we want to think of the Power BI dashboard like the dashboard of our cars. Of course, from our cars, the dashboard aggregates different kinds of data. And after it has aggregated the data, it is able to give us lots of information that we can see from a glance. So it has a control panel, of course, and we see only the key metrics that we want at a glance. And of course, in Power BI, dashboards are interactive. We can click on a bar to look at the dashboard, and it's going to give us all sorts of things. Like we can see here on the screen, we've got a dashboard here. And with that dashboard, we can see things like, for example, the sales year to date, the variance of the sales, our sales target by month, and our sales profit margin and quantity. Can give us all kinds of information that we can see at a glance. Now, why is this important? It's important because it cuts through all of the irrelevant data, it cuts through all the noise, and of course, our brains are better able to process visual information faster. Of course, if we're going to be looking at the same kind of information in a table, we will not be able to make much sense out of it. Even if we do, it's going to take us longer to be able to do that. Now, another reason why Power BI dashboards matter is that it guides our decisions. Depending on how we have configured our dashboards, we can see flags, okay, which will warn us of any situation before the situation gets out of control. Much like if we're looking at the dashboard of our car and we're running out of fuel, we're going to see it quickly. If our car is overheating, we're also going to see it quickly. So a Power BI dashboard can be configured in such a way that it's going to spotlight whatever kinds of trends that is important to us. It also empowers everyone from the CEO to the intern, for example. Dashboards allow anyone to explore the data without the need to write code or to write any structured query language statements. So we've got a lot of process, and the aim, I would say, the end point of whatever we've been doing in Power BI is to create the kind of dashboard that we see on the screen. So we are going to be looking at how dashboards compare with reports. So I'll go ahead and let's quickly look at how our dashboards will be compared to reports. But before then, I'll just quickly go and launch my lab, and I'll just go ahead and do a launch here so that when we are ready, our labs is going to come up. Okay, so let's see comparing dashboards to reports. We are going to be looking at this from different points. We are going to start with looking at it from the point of purpose and scope. So, how are dashboards different from reports in terms of purpose and scope? Now, reports are built for deep analysis. We want to think of a report as a detailed narrative walking us through our data step by step. And they are typically multi-page. That's a very, very important distinction. Reports have multi-pages, giving us layers of information that allows us to drill down into the specifics. The primary purpose of a report is to let us explore the full breadth and depth of our data, to answer questions and to uncover fine-grained insights. Now, dashboards, on the other hand, gives us a high level overview. And typically, dashboards are one pagers. That means we have dashboards in one page. They're going to be giving us, well, a snapshot of the key performance indicators. That's what they are going to be doing. And it's going to aggregate important insights from multiple reports. That means we can see details from multiple reports in a dashboard. And we're going to see how we are going to create one shortly. Then another thing we are going to be looking at in differences between dashboard and report is in terms of structure and granularity. Let me just make this a bit bigger so that you can see more what I'm talking about. Now, in terms of structure and granularity, let's think of reports as the detailed chapters in a book, for example. Each page or section of a report is designed to deal with a specific aspect of our data. Just a minute, let me just take my, let me remove the volume from my phone. Okay, so I was saying that we should think of reports as detailed chapters in a book. Each page or section of a report is meant to deal with a specific aspect of the data, of course, and that is built off of a single data set usually. So this makes it possible for us to incorporate different kinds of visualizations, different kinds of interactivity, like drill throughs and slicers, like we saw in previous sessions, are giving us some details that have the appropriate context. Now, dashboards, on the other hand, can be thought of as an executive summary, of course. So dashboards, will look at them as executive summaries of the same book, which will now be condensing multiple chapters into key highlights in a single page. That's a very important distinction. Dashboards usually have one single page. So dashboards also give us a broad perspective, giving us visuals that are pinned from different reports. What that means is that a dashboard is not about giving you more details, but it's more about giving you a helicopter view of your data, of course, and it's supposed to be something that is relatively simple to use. Now, in terms of interactivity and user engagement, reports are by design more interactive. They invite you to explore, to do a lot of filtering, and to interact with the data. Now, the interactive elements such as drill downs, dynamic filtering, and elements that you can click is going to allow you to navigate from summary into views that explores your data more. Dashboards, on the other hand, gives you some level of interactivity, but of course, the intent is not to allow you to know every details, but to give you all of the essentials, and that will be available to you at a glance. So that's another thing. Now, on another level, we're going to look at data interactivity and flexibility, looking at comparing reports and dashboards. Now, reports rely on a single primary data set or a data model that is properly integrated. Now, that means that it's going to help you maintain consistency, which is going to, of course, reflect the different aspects of the data set in a single story, for example. Dashboards, on the other hand, are built with a high degree of flexibility, pulling together visuals from different data sets or reports that will be giving you a holistic view that is not limited to a single data source. Long story short, reports will typically have their data sets being from one source, but of course, dashboards can have the data coming from different data sources. Again, in terms of the audience and the use case, reports, of course, are suited for data analysts. So data analysts will be the primary consumers of reports. Other people that can consume reports are researchers or anyone that needs to do an in-depth exploration of the data, because they give a lot of room for testing and validating your data, uh, which of course will be attractive to users that are comfortable with navigating through the data and of course understanding the complexity of the data. On the other hand, dashboards are good for decision makers, uh, people at the higher level within organizations, especially when they need to understand what's going on and they need to see that quickly. So dashboards will be designed to be immediately accessible for people to understand, and they will be giving us indicators at a glance without overwhelming the user with too much details. In terms of maintenance and governance, which is the last thing we are going to talk about, reports deal with extensive details. So what that means is that changes to the underlying data model will require a lot of review, because that change is going to, of course, affect the narrative in terms of reports. Now, dashboards, on the other hand, give us a layer of abstraction from these complexities. So they are typically easier to manage for routine monitoring, and they are going to be allowing for quicker updates and modifications that will be reflecting the changing business environment without needing to rework multiple layers of analysis. Okay, so I'll just show you quickly here how we will access the lab. Now, the link to the lab is in the description for this video. So to access the lab, you will go here and click on this link called exercise, and that's going to take you to this page. And of course, you are going to see this is going to now give you this place, this window here where you can launch the lab. But for you to use this, you should be signed in to your Microsoft Learn account. Once you click on launch the lab, of course, it's going to now take you to the launched lab, which looks like this. And you can now go ahead and sign in, which is exactly what I'm going to do right away. So once you sign in, it takes you to the environment and you want to go ahead and perform all of the lab activities, which I'm going to be doing in a minute. So let's just expand this, and we want to get into the lab environment and see how we can create dashboards. So I'll open a browser, and then from within the browser, I want to, following the instruction, of course, go to this link, that is app.fabric.microsoft.com. The login details will be in the lab. I'm going to go ahead and put in the email that they provided. Hit on submit. And then again, there's a password that has been provided. It prompts me to stay signed in. I'll say yes. Okay, it gives me some verification, and it says use the arrow to rotate the asset to face the same direction. So I'll go ahead and, all right, and I'll submit. Okay, use the arrow to rotate to face the same direction. I don't think, is there any need to rotate this? Okay, so I'll just submit. Yeah, and it verifies me. So I'll click on continue here, and I'll just fill in all of the details. and the phone number, which by the way is also in the instruction, and I'll click on get started. All right, so we have our Power BI environment here. This is the Power BI service. The next thing I want to do is I want to go to powerbi.com. Sorry, the Power BI desktop. And there's a link to within the instruction to download the example files. I'll just minimize this. So while we are waiting for that, I'll just go to my workspace. These are some of the tiles we are going to be using. We are going to be using a workspace. In the next class, I'm going to be explaining what a workspace is. But that's primarily where we are going to be working with. We can see that my workspace here is empty. And then, of course, I can go ahead and either import from here. So I can click here and say import, report, or paginated report from this computer. So I'll go ahead and see we have the option to import the report either from this computer, from OneDrive, or from SharePoint. I'll just go ahead and click on that. And if we've downloaded the example files, I will see where the files are. So I downloaded the file. Let's see where the files are. Yeah, that's the file there. I'll just go ahead and open it. And then I'll go ahead and import the starter sales analysis report. So first, I'll just click on this. That's the starter sales analysis.pbix. And I'll go ahead and import. Now, we could have also done the opposite. The opposite being, I just close one of these. The opposite being doing it from the desktop. And in such a case, what would have simply done would have been to publish. So I'd have just done this, open, browse the device, gone to downloads, gone here, and open this. Okay, and that's, if you remember, is our dashboard. First of all, I want to save a copy of this. So I'll go to File, I'll go to Save As, I'll browse to the same location, and I'll just call this my dashboard, for example. Okay, and then I'll say. Now, we could have done one of the two. We could have published this, or if we have our data set, we'll go to Power BI and import. Now, to publish this, you've got to go to here, click on Publish on the Home tab. In the Share group, you click on Publish. It's now going to prompt you to sign in. You will be signing in with the same username provided in your lab details. I'll go ahead and click on Continue. It prompts you again to put your username. I'll click on Next. And now you put the password and you click on Sign in. Of course, it prompts you, I want to sign into all of the apps, which is optional, by the way. Okay, I click on done. So see, it sees my workspace, and then I click on select. And it's going to now I'm publishing from Power BI. In the previous case, from the Power BI service, I imported. So you are going to see here is the same dashboard. This time around, of course, you can see I just gave it a different name. But if we were to open this report, we're going to see that it's exactly the same thing. If I go back, or I go to my workspace and click on the report, exactly the same. The only difference is in the name. So when we want to, for example, publish a report to Power BI, there are two options. We could do that from the desktop by just coming to home and publish, or we could do that from the service by going to my workspace, going to import, going to reports and paginated report or workbook, and then selecting from computer. Whatever method works for you, you go ahead and adopt. But those are the two possible ways we can do that. Okay, so we've imported. I'll go ahead and open the report, this one. That's because that's what the instruction is going to be using. So we see here, we've got a report, multiple page report. I'll just close this. We can see from the last demonstration, this is the report we created. Okay, so we've got a number of things here. We can ensure that the slicer, okay, so we can ensure here that the slicer, just a minute, is at financial year 2021. And then we ensure that all of our regions are selected. Now, how do we create a dashboard? We simply create a dashboard from reports by pinning tiles to the dashboard. So to create a dashboard with our visual, we want to hover over this. This is a tile here, which is a visual called sales and profit margin. I want to go ahead and click on this. If we hover over it like this, you see a push pin icon here. It comes up at the top right-hand side of the visual. We'll just want to go ahead and click on pin visual. So if we've clicked it, we are going to see a pop-up screen here. Now, this pop-up screen is prompting us to do a number of things, such as pin to dashboard. And it gives us two options. If we have an existing dashboard, we choose this and then select the dashboard. But we currently do not have an existing dashboard, so this is not available for selection. So the only option we have here is new dashboard. From here, we'll give our dashboard a name, such as sales monitoring, again, according to the instruction. And then we'll go ahead and click on pin. Okay, so we have that. Okay, now we'll go back to our workspace. I'll click on my workspace. So we can see here that in addition to my dashboard, my report, and my dashboard semantic model, we now have the dashboard called sales monitoring. Okay, so if we open that dashboard, we can see we have a dashboard, but just one visual is available because that is the visual we have pinned. Okay, so we could go ahead and pin some more visuals. Okay, but before that, we have the Q&A feature here that allows us to interrogate our data using natural language. So we can, if we click here, ask a question about your data, I'll just go ahead and click it, and we got options like top reseller sales province by profit, top reseller country region by order lines, and a whole lot of things that we can do right here. So we can do a lot of things, and we can, for example, type sales year to date or YTD. Okay, so if we click that and we click on go, it gives us blank. Okay, now the reason it gives us blank is that when we're creating measures, the measure we created here is uses a time intelligence expression, and it requires us to filter it on the date table in order to provide a result. Okay, so what that means now is we have to add some form of date. So I'll go ahead and say in year FY 2020. Okay, so if I go ahead now and click on this, it gives us now a report. Okay, so it gives us a report here. And if I wanted to pin this report or this result of our query to the dashboard, I'll just come here and click on pin visual. And this time around, it gives us the option to select the existing dashboard right there. Okay, so our existing dashboard here is sales monitoring. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and pin. Okay, so if I now go to our sales monitoring dashboard, let's go back to my workspace, and I go to my sales monitoring dashboard, we can see here now that I have a second visual, which is the sales year to date that came from, of course, the query that I wrote here by coming to ask questions of our data. Okay, now we could do a lot of other things. We can add company logo, and we can do a lot of things. Now, to add the company logo, we want to come here, which is the edit, and from there we want to add a tile. Okay, so adding a tile opens up a menu that we can use to add our tile. So I want to select image. I'll click on next, and then we have the add image tile page. We want to go to the URL. Okay, and from the URL, we want to open up our example folder, go to our download, which is in documents, and then we are going to see the URL text here, which we will open, and I'm going to copy everything, every single thing here, and paste it here, like that. Okay, so once I paste, I'll go ahead and apply, and that is our URL right there. Of course, we can rearrange everything if we wanted to. We can drag our tile, we can resize as we want to make it a bit more visually appealing right there. Or we could bring this up and take this down if we wanted to. Okay, so this is looking more like a dashboard. we can go back to our report, add all of the dashboards that we want, and all of that. Now we have here, if we wanted to edit the details here, we can hover over a particular tile and it will bring up an ellipsis. So I'll go ahead and click on the ellipsis, and the ellipsis prompts us to do some editing. So I'll go ahead and click on edit details. And then from the edit details here, I can include that this is for financial year 2020. So I'll just go ahead and add this in the subtitle, and I'll just say FY 2020. And if I apply, we quickly see exactly what I've done here within the tile right there. Okay, we could also edit the details for the sales profit margin tile if we wanted to. I'll go ahead and do that, for example, and we can, in functionality, display the last refresh time. Can see that this was refreshed 7 minutes ago, roughly the time we imported this into the Power BI service. So if I go ahead and apply, we can see that the details are included is there. So that's basically how we can add our tiles. We can go back to our, for example, we can go back to our report and go ahead and add another tile. I can come here and click on pin visual, and here again, I want to pin, and I can go to the dashboard from here. We can see I can add this to the bottom, and I can resize it as much as I want. And I can also go ahead and edit it if I wanted to, give all of the details I want to add. I'll just go ahead and say I also want to display the last refresh time. And that's basically how we will be creating dashboards. Okay. So you can go ahead now and spend the remainder of the time we have doing the labs. In the very next session that we are going to have, which will be the last session that we're going to have for this course, we are going to be looking at how we can play around within the workspaces, how we can grant permissions, and some of those kinds of things. So for now, it's going to be where we'll have to stop. And the details of what we've talked about is available on the YouTube channel. You can go there and, of course, play around, listen to these things, and do the lab. It is recommended you do the lab because that's the only way you can reinforce everything you've learned. So thank you very much for your time, and I'm going to be ending the session right away. See you in the next one.
Thank you.